Good morning, boys and girls. We are here preparing for our final paper. I'm going to do paper 2. Paper 2, which is you're going to have your recons, you're going to have your tax, you're going to have your cash budgets. So I'm just going to highlight a few things to you. Remember, in reconciliations, you can have bank reconciliation, you can have creditors reconciliation, you can have debtors reconciliation. Or you can be asked to do the list, the debtors list or the creditors list. I've chosen the one that most of the learners ignore, or they take it for granted, which is debtors list. I want us to do the debtors list. But it is very important for you to know why do you have to prepare your reconciliations, and why do you have to, why is it necessary for us to prepare the reconciliation. But before I go that, I would like us to check what we're having here on my screen. We are having a few points to discuss here. I hope you can see my screen, my laptop screen. You're having reconciliation, like I said, you're having bank, creditors and debtors reconciliation. And then you have to know the reasons why you prepare them, and then the internal control of those. Under value added tax, which is VAT, you must make sure that the VAT control accounts, or to calculate the amount payable or receivable from SARS, in a format, if the format is fixed. The input is the debit side of the VAT control, and the output is the credit side of the VAT control. And then exclusive, you have to multiply the amount given, by 15 out of 100, not 14. And then with inclusive, you have to make the amount 15 out of 150. If the balance is given here, it was supposed to be 15. You have to say inclusive, you multiply amount given by 15 out of 100. When you have inclusive, you multiply amount given by 15 out of 115. If balance is credit, then it is payable. If balance is debit, then it's receivable. Very important, if given both gets the difference, if not stipulated, assume it is inclusive. So on the cash budget, you have to know the reasons for preparing cash budgets. You have to calculate the missing figure. For example, closing balance of the current month will be an opening of the next month. Budget variance, you compare the actual and the budgeted. For example, you budget for 12,000 for telephone and then you used 14,000. It means you have overspent. Then you compare and then you comment. Under debtors collection, if given total sales, look for the percentage given for credit or cash sales. If given discount on paying yearly, it should be subtracted after calculating the amount received from the month. All right, let's get to the activity that we are going to do. We are going to do debtors reconciliation and internal control. On the internal control, we are given the information for SA traders. The bookkeeper has made a few errors when recording the debtors control account to the debtors list. So very important, first of all, explain why the debtors control account should correspond or should reconcile or should be the same with the debtors list. Then go into the answer sheet. Here is the answer. The debtors control account is a summary of an individual debtors accounts. Therefore, it needs to correspond with the debtors list. Then the second question, explain the two processes the bookkeeper should follow if he or she discovers a difference between the debtors control account and the debtors list from the debtors ledger. First of all, he needs to control the entries in the journal. Make sure that the entries are correct or done properly. Control of closing of journals. You have to make sure that all the columns are balanced correctly and properly, and addition also is correct. Control with actual source document. Check the source document and check if the transaction was recorded in the correct journal, because that also can affect. And then control the posting from the journals to the ledger. So you must also control or check that. And then question number 3, it says, explain 2 measures a business can introduce to improve the collection of the funds from the debtors. First one, the business can do a research on the debtors credit score or the credit history. It is very important for you as the business to check if this person, his score or her score will allow the person to be able to pay. Because if your credit score is very low, if the person's credit score is very low, it will be difficult for that person to repay the account. You offer discounts. Offer discounts should be paid within 60 days period. You give a discount if they pay in time. You charge interest on overdue accounts. If a person is supposed to pay on the 1st and then now it's the 7th, you must charge interest. So for people who are avoiding the interest, will make sure that they pay in time. Another one, you follow up on overdue accounts by sending reminders, SMS, or phone calls, or emails. Other businesses also use the WhatsApp because most people are now on WhatsApp. So it is very important as the business to do follow up on overdue accounts. Constantly remind people that they need to pay their accounts. Then 1.4, it says SA Traders requires their new customer to provide personal details, including proof of residence, before opening an account. Briefly explain why is it necessary for them to do to provide proof of residence. First reason, it is essential for a business to know the address so that they can send the statement on time to the debtors to ensure that the debtors pay on time. Remember, if the statements are posted to the debtors and they receive it in time, let's say for example, the statements are sent on the 20th of each and every month, and then the debtors receive them maybe the 25th, it automatically allow the debtor to budget for the payment of a particular creditor at the end of the month. And then the second one, if any of the debtors do not settle their accounts, it can be necessary to take legal action against them, in which case the addresses will be essential to serve illegal papers. For example, if a debtor owes us the business money, we must make sure that that person pays. If he doesn't pay, it will include sheriffs and whatever. That is what we mean by legal papers. So we have to have the address, because the first thing the attorney will ask you is, do you know where the person is staying, so that we can send the documents. So if you do not have a proof of residence, you'll not be able to know where the person is staying. And then the NCA, National Credit Act, requires a business to check whether a potential customer can afford to purchase on credit. Address are part of the personal history of a customer. For example, if the person was staying in a very, very serious suburb, and then now he has changed to stay at the lower place, let's say it means that person might have been bankrupt. He was staying in a very high suburb, now he's staying in a normal or in a poor suburb or an urban poor area. When we are talking here, we are talking about a history of a customer. So it will show that this person was staying in a high suburb, now he has degraded. It means the business of this person as an individual is bankrupt or is undergoing any credit or debt review. All right. Then let's go to question 1.4 while we are still here on question 1. We have all answered 1.1 up to 1.4. Then 1.2, it says, prepare the correct debtors list on the 31st August 2020 and show how would you adjust the debtors control account using the format provided. So here is the information given. The bookkeeper discovered that they had made a number of errors when preparing the debtors ledger accounts. Then the debtors control account and the debtors list did not reconcile. The difference is 6,470. So in order for us to get that difference, we need to correct our list. The summary was prepared as follows. We have balance of the debtors control account, 70,663. And then the total of the debtors list is 77,163. So that is where when you check the difference, you'll get the 6,470. Sunnyside Traders is owing 17,600. Tembisa Traders, 55,473. And then we have Tile Dye Suppliers, 3,400. And then Mando Modo, 660. So the difference is 6,470. 70. Here are the errors that were picked up. Errors on the accounts of Sunnyside. Its interest on account was calculated incorrectly, therefore you have to adjust it with an additional of 165,000. Then you go to your list. Here is your list. Sunnysides, the opening was 17. The interest was 17,600 from the information given up here. Opening balance 17,300. You can see it is here. Then what is it that we do? We have the additional interest of 165 from adjustment number 3. Then you go to there, you add your 165,000, and then we were given 2,310 already. Then let's look for another adjustment. Another adjustment here, adjustment number 4. It says a credit note of 3,080 was incorrectly reflecting the debtor's ledger as a debit entry of Tembisa. Then the general ledger is correct. Then we must also correct that of Tembisa. And then Tembisa Traders claims that they paid 13,200 last month. But this is not reflected on their statement. During the investigation, it reveals that Tembisa Traders payment was incorrectly posted to the account of another debtor, which is Sunnyside Traders. Therefore, we must take it out from the Sunny's account. Here it is. We are taking it out. Therefore, when you say 17,600 plus 165,000 plus 2,310 plus 13,210, it gives you 33,270. But we still have the opening balance of Tembisa. It's 55,473. Let's go back to that adjustment and see it. Here it is, Tembisa, opening balance of Tembisa. It's 55,473. We have that opening balance. And then let's go to the adjustment. The adjustment says a credit note of 3,080 was incorrectly reflected in the debtor's ledger accounts as debit entry. Therefore, we have to correct this credit note. Therefore, we are going to our answer sheet. This is how we correct it. We are having in a bracket, you must have 3,080 plus 3,080 minus 3,080 plus 3,080, meaning we are correcting that credit note that we're having here on the adjustment, which says a credit note was incorrectly reflected. So you say minus open bracket 3,080 plus 3,080, you are correctly doing it. And then they set in the debtor's ledger accounts on the debit entry. So the general ledger is correct. So it only affects your list, not the control. Therefore, you go again to an adjustment of Tembisa. We are having Tembisa Traders, the 13,200, which did not reflect in their statement. It must reflect in their statement. Let's go back to Tembisa and correct it. Here it is, minus 13,200. Then let's go back to another adjustment of Tembisa. It says, bullet number 3, Tembisa Traders has issued a dishonored check for 2,750 in the settlement of the account of 3,100. So the CRJ and the CPJ entries were correctly recorded. The cancellation of the discount was not reflected in the debtor's ledger account. The control account is correct, but it did not reflect, it was not cancelled correctly. So you must cancel it on our list. Hence why you are going to have plus the 350 where you are cancelling the discount. Therefore, you are going to have 49,663. And then coming to another adjustment of Tile D, we are done with Tembisa. Here's adjustment number 5 because we are done with adjustment number 4. Addition errors reflect on the debtor's reconciliation statement. Mondo stores a debtor of 660 has been written off as irrecoverable. The amount was posted to debtor's control account but not to debtors personal account. So we must do it in there so that we can have 0. Mondo, this is how our account for Mondo for that adjustment will look like. Because he was written off, he was owing 660, then minus 660 because we are writing this person off, therefore we'll be left with 0. Then let's go back again to tilde. Tilde suppliers reflected the debtors ledger and the creditors ledger. Their credit balance was 2,124 in the creditors ledger. It is to be offset against the account in the debtors ledger. Therefore, we go to the opening balance. Opening balance is 3,400. And then we must use that adjustment. This is how our account look like. Opening balance of 3,400 minus the 2,124, it will give 1,276. So let's go back a little bit and see. Like we said here, the tilde suppliers are reflected in the debtors ledger and the creditors ledger. Their credit balance of this is to be offset. So we're doing offset on that, hence why we're having a balance of 1,200 that's why we are having 2,124, then it's 1,276. So when you say 33,275 plus 49,663, 100, when you are saying the balance 1,276 and then Mondos is 0, at the end of the day, your list will correspond with your the control account, and then you will have a 0 at the end of the day. So let's go to the question, the last question here. They say to us, after preparing that, you have to show us the last question here. They said, list of the adjustment of the debtors control. What is it that you have on your list? You're having these two items. You have 165,000 as the amount, account to be debited. You're going to debit your debtors control, and account to be credited will be your interest income. And then on the last one of tilde, which is 2,124, as per our adjustment number 5 bullet B, we are saying 2,124 is the amount, and then the account to be debited is debt credit control, and then account to be credited is debtors control. So that is how our debtors list and debtors control account will look like. And then for this, remember, you can have your full 24 marks. But what is important, learners, is to remember that you have to make sure that you know the internal control, because if you understand the internal control of the reconciliation, it will be easy for you to do it. Why do we need certain documents? That is what we have covered. And again, we need to give the reasons to control measures, and also we need to give the reasons why we are doing it, why we are doing the reconciliation, and also why they should correspond. First of all, you need to understand the reconciliation, then you will understand that the list needs to correspond with the control account. So we have come to the end of our first part, which is the reconciliation, where I did the list, and then and then we are going to move where I've just highlighted the VAT, or the important things that you need to know about VAT. I'll quickly go to them. So the first part of us was the reconciliation and the value added tax, which I said you must remember. And then on the second session, or on the second note or second sheet, after our 10 minutes break, we will be doing our cash budgets. That is where you will see how to do our cash budgets as part of the revision. Remember, output, debit side of the VAT control. Input, debit side of the VAT control. Output, credit side of the VAT control on the VAT. And if it is exclusive, you multiply by 15 out of 100, whatever amount you are having. If it is inclusive, you multiply by 15 out of 150. So like we said, if the balance is credit, it's payable. If the balance is debit, it's receivable. But if given to get the bold difference. It is not stipulated. You must assume that it's inclusive. So we've come to the end of that part. You will get this notes immediately after the presentation. It will be emailed to colleagues who will email it to their schools. Thank you very much. Let me see you after 10 minutes break. Welcome back again. Remember I said now we are going to discuss the budgets, and then you'll have analysis as well. Remember on the budgets I said you are going to compare the budgeted and the actual use, and then you'll be able to comment, and you're also going to calculate the percentage payable, or the percentage sales that are made, or the percentage purchases. You're also going to complete the missing figures. So on the budgets, when you check there, I want us to do this activity together. You are provided with the cash budgets relating to Legacy Furnishers for the 3 months, which is ending the 31st December 2020. The business is owned by Alfred Celtics. Then the first thing that you need to do, you need to prepare your debtors collection schedule. So normally debtors collection schedule will be given an answer sheet that you need to work on it. So here is your answer sheet. But before we go to answer sheet, I just want us to check the information that is provided to us. On the 31st December 2020, you identify the figures below, explain why. Here is just where you're going to give advice and comments. I want us to go to the information that is given. On the information, credit terms and credit limits, we have Alfred policy of grant debtors credit limits of 15,000 each. So they are already telling you that the credit limit is 15,000. If you come across anybody who has been given a credit of 21,000, it means he has crossed his or her credit limit. So they are expected to settle their accounts within 30 days on the date of or statement. Here are the sales and the cost of sales. Total sales of the past financial year was 960,000. Then the 75% of the sales are on credit, but the rest are on cash. So meaning that this business operates on cash and on credit basis. So the total sales for October to December were as follows. In October, they had the sales of 81,000. In November, they had the sales of 78,000. And then in December, they had the sales of 75,000. So the businesses use a markup of 50% on the cost at all times. Stock is replaced on a monthly basis. 50% of all purchases are for cash and the rest are on credit. Do not mix the two. If you check bullet number 2, adjustment number 2, bullet number 2, it says 75% of sales are on credit and the rest are on cash. And then when you go to this bullet that I've just read, it says 50% of all the purchases are for cash and the rest are on credit. So do not mix the two. Then creditors are paid in the month after the purchase is made to receive the 5% of the discount. And then, so we need this information in order for us to be able to calculate or to prepare our debtors collection schedule. So on the debtors collection schedule, here's the debtors collection. Debtors are expected to pay as follows. 25% of the debtors settle the account on the month, in the month of sale, which is the current month. If you check here on the adjustment number 2, it says October 81,000. It means 25% of debtors settle the accounts in that month. And then 40% settle in the month following the month of transaction, which is 30 days. And then you have 30% settles in the second month, which is 60 days. And then 5% are written off. So here is the information for that particular company. If you check, here is our C that you'll have to calculate at some point. And then here is our D that you'll have to calculate at some point. And here is our E that you'll have to calculate at some point. And then here is our A and B that you'll have to calculate at some point. Now let's go to the answer sheet. On the answer sheet, I will quickly do this on the answer sheet. You are going to be given the information that you are having here. It says September, the sales, let's check how much was, the sales was 63,000, which is the credit sales, which is already the 75%. and then your credit sales, you say 63,000, you multiply by the 30% because you are paying November. When you check up there, it says the second month, it's 60 days. So if you are paying the sales for September, then you are in November, it's obviously 60 days because you'll count September as 30, you'll count October as 30 days, you'll count November as 30 days. Therefore, it will give you your 60 days. Therefore, you're going to have 63,000 multiplied by 30 out of 100. It will give you 18,600. 18,900. Sorry for that. Then we are going to October. You go to October, you go to information that is given here. On your October, you are having the sales of 81,000. I hope you can all see it. You are having the sales of 81,000. Therefore, 81,000, you only take 75% because 75 is the one on credit sales. So you say 81,000 multiplied by 75%, it will give you 60,760, which you will put it here, 60,750, which is your credit sales for October. And then coming to the collections under November, that is where you're going to use your 40%. And then you're going to say 60,750 multiplied by 40 divided by 100, you will get your 24,300. The question arises, why 40? We said the settlement 40%, when you go to adjustment number 3 here, it says 40% settle in the month following the sale of transaction month, which is 30 days. So meaning, if you had your sales in October, then in November, you'll only have completed the 30 days. Hence why you will use the 40% to get to your 24,300. And then moving to the November, let's check how much was our sales for November. It's here. The sales for November is 78,000. So onto the 78,000, you need to calculate the 75% to check your credit sales, because this is the total sales. 78,000. It includes the 75% of the credit and the 25% of the cash. So you have to separate the two and check the ones for credit so that you'll be able to see how you are going to collect it. Therefore, you go 78,000 multiplied by 75%. It is going to give you 58,500. So onto the 58,500, you need to do the collections for your November. Then you go to debtors collection. 25% of the debtors settle the accounts in the month of sale. So remember, in the very same month, which is November, the 25% must be paid. Therefore, you're going to say 58,000 that you have got, that you have calculated when you are dealing with your 75% of credit sales. You say 58,500 multiply by 25 out of 100, which is the 25%, which is paid in the 30 days of the during the month of the sale. Therefore, it will give you 14,625. And then it is very, very important to add, and you have to add correctly. So you are going to say your 18,900 plus 24,300 plus 14,625. It will give you 57,825. Because it says to you, you need to prepare the debtors collection schedule. We want to see the total amount of money that will be collected at the end of November. So hence why you are going to have your 57,825. Then let's move to number B. Back to our questions. Our questions number 2, it says, calculate the figures indicated by A up to E in the cash budget. Then this one we can just calculate it while we are having the very same budget, cash budget with us. We don't need to go to the answer sheet. On the cash budget here, you can check. Remember when I was doing the notes on the cash budget, I said to you, the balance that closed at the end of last month, it must open at the beginning of this month. So this is what is basically happening. When you check, we are having our 3 months here, which has October, November, December as per column. The first column is October, the second one is November, the third one is December. Now, if you can check, at the end of October, we had 64,750 as the opening, as the closing amount of money that we had. And then that money, we must open the month of November with it because we had it last month. And then going further, you are having 39,190 as the end or as the closing amount in your November. Therefore, in your December, this 39,100 must come to A. So when you answer on your answer sheet, you will have to have 39,190 as your A, because it is the closing of the month of November. Therefore, it will be the opening on the month of December. All right, let's continue. Let's look for our B. Our B is also very simple. You just say the surplus, which is 23,220 in bracket. Then you subtract the 39,190. It is the positive one. Therefore, it will give you your B. Your B will be 23,220 minus on your calculator 39,190. Therefore, you will get 15,970 as your B. All right. Then let's go to our C. Our C, we have to calculate in October the cash sales. So the cash sales of October, we have to check the total sales. When you check from the information given, check the total sales for October. We will go up, and then here are the sales for October. Can we all see is 81,000. So remember, the total sales include the credit sales and the cash sales. So let's go to our total sales. When we are at here, we are talking about cash sales. So our cash sales, we have already calculated from the schedule, but for the sake of those who understood that 81,000 is the total sales, therefore you're going to say minus the credit sales of 60,750 that we have already calculated. Therefore your sales, your cash sales will be 20,250. So that will be your C. All right. Okay. Then let's go to D. D, they say to you, you must calculate the purchases of stock for cash. Therefore, this one, it will need us to go to the answer sheet because it is a bit longer. But while we go to the answer sheet, I just want to check with us. Purchases of stock for cash. Remember, we have the stock that we bought on the stock for credit and the stock for cash. So let's see here. We are going to use, we are still on which month? We are on October. Let's go to October. October, we agreed. We are having 81,000. So this 81,000 is the sales on the total sales. So the 75% is on credit, then the 25% is on cash. Therefore, we are going to say 81,000 divided by 1, multiply. We need to know the markup. The markup, remember when you calculate the markup, you say 100 divided by 100 plus the percentage given. So from the information that we are having here, do we have any markup? Yes, this bullet that follows, it says the business used a markup of 50%. Therefore, you're going to have 100 divided by 150. So it will be your 81,000 divide by 1, multiply by 100 out of 150, multiply by 1 out of 2. Why 1 out of 2? Which is the half. Let's go. Because we said 50% of all purchases are cash and the rest is on credit. So meaning it's 50% cash and 50% credit. So we are looking for the purchases of stock for cash. Meaning we are only looking for the 50%, which is half, 1 out of 2. So when you go to our answer sheet, it will be our 81,000 multiply by 100 divided by 150 multiply by 1 out of 2, which will give us 27,000. All right. Then let's go to our number E. our number E, what is it that we are expected to calculate? We are expected to calculate payments to creditors. We need to pay creditors. We are paying our creditors in 60 days. If you check the information that is given there of the creditors, it says, remember, our creditors must be paid in 60 days. Where is that information? I see it, it's here. It says, from the information given there, it says, remember, creditors are paid, is the last item here. It says creditors are paid in the month after the purchases is received, after the purchases, in order to receive a 5% discount. So we need to pay our creditors. We have to check how much it's our creditors. Therefore, you're going to have, we need to pay our creditors. We bought the stock for November, it was 78,000, and then we in November the total sales, the sales that we have made is 78,000, and then we have to pay our creditors. So creditors are paid in the month of purchases in order to receive the 5%. So when we're calculating everything, we are going to have our credit sales as 26,650 after we have subtracted our 5%. And then let's go to 1.3. They say calculate the percentage increase in the salaries in December 2020. Therefore, you go to your information of salaries. Here is your salaries. 22,000. It was your salary in October. And then again 22,000. It was your salary in November. Then the salary has increased in November. So when you calculate the increase there, you have to say you are having 22,000, it was without the increase. Then you 23,000, it is with the increase. So you need to say your 28,000 plus the percentage that you do not know will give you the 23,760. So you have to calculate the unknown with the known. So your 23,000 plus question mark, which is the percentage, will give you 23,770. Therefore, the unknown figure will be your 8%. How do you calculate your 8%? You said 20,000, 23,000, 22,000 plus the question mark that you do not have. You will have the 23,760. And then they said one of the employees, Mona Lot, is not happy with the increase. State 2 points in response of her complaint. The first complaint, you have to check the inflation. The inflation is very high, but the increase of the salary is not that good. Sales are decreasing per month. You can check from the information that we have. In October, we had the sales of 81,000. And then in November, we are having the sales as 78,000. And in December, as 75,000. So they keep on decreasing. So that is also a problem. Economy is declining. She's likely to have a job. That is the other reason. Another reason is expenses exceed the income for the past 2 months. So meaning we are overspending as the business. So if it exceeds, it automatically means that they will have a less increase. There is not too much money in the bank. You can check your projected statement that is given. In the bank in October, you had 64,000. And then in November, you had 39,000. But in December, you are having 15,970. So the amount in the bank keeps on decreasing from October up to now. So that also contributes as a problem. And then let's check another problem. Consider amounts of drawings taken by the owner can only work out in November drawings. So if you check the drawings there from the information given as well, it is having the question marks, but you can also calculate it if you add everything to get your totals here. Everything that you calculate, you'll see how your drawings is working out. Then you'll see why do we say that. And then the next one we are saying, explain what you would say to Alfred about each one of the following items in October, and then give 1 point to advise. The first thing that you are going to check there, we need to check our advertising. Let's see, what do we see in advertising according to the answer sheet that is given. Advertising, where is your advertising? Your advertising is 1,000 every month, but does it improve your sales? Remember, the purpose of us to advertise, it is to increase the sales that we are having in the business. So if our advertising is 1,000 rand, is it increasing the sales? When you check the sales that you made, instead they're going down, they're not going up. So let's see, what can we say about advertising. We're going down, we are saying the expense is the same as the budgeted when planned. We should consider to increase the advertising budget as the sales figures are declining. So because we are still advertising with 1,000 rand, the sales are not increasing, they are declining. So the advice is we need to increase them, or we need to maintain control over the items in the future. So the expense is the same as the one that is budgeted. We budgeted 1,000, we used 1,000 for all those months. So that is how it goes. Let's go to advertising on the budgeted and expected on top there, not on the budget here. Here is the budgeted. We budgeted 1,000 rand, and then the actual that was used was 1,000 rand. Then let's go to sundries. Sundry expenses, we budgeted 2.6, but we used 1.9. This is a good gesture. Why do we say it's a good gesture? If you were planning to use a lot of money and then you use favorable variance, actually less than the budgeted, efficient and well controlled. That is why we are saying it's a good gesture. You maintain control over sundry expenses, meaning expenses were controlled, allocated individual expenses to operate accounts, or even better control to improve it more. Check the sundry expenses are correctly recorded, because it can also be a problem. Budget for a lesser amount in the future. So you can see that you budgeted for 2.6, but you used less than that. You can even go lower than that if you control or you tighten it much better. Then let's go to telephone. Telephone is 900, but the actual is 3.8. This is clearly a misuse. You see, you have budgeted to use only 900 on the telephone. Therefore, we have used 3.8. We have used the first step to identify or to say it's we have used more than we have budgeted. That is the comment, because we have budgeted 900 and then we used the 3.8. So significantly we have overspent, meaning actually we have used more than we have budgeted. So we need to have extra control on it to avoid unnecessary calls. What is it that we need to do? Calls not related to the business should be avoided. You talk to your staff, and then the phones must have a PIN code or a phone code that will enable us, when we check the statement, to see who called this number. And then we have to inspect if budget is realistic. We also have to check that we have budgeted for 900, but we are using 3 point something. Is it realistic? The kind of business we are doing, is it allowing us to use budget of 900? If the kind of the business you are using does not need a lot of calls to be made, it necessarily means we don't have to overspend or use a lot of money on our telephone. Then the last one is rent. Let's check how much was rent and how was it used from the budgeted. Rent income, we budgeted 7.5 and then the actual was 1.50, meaning something somewhere must have gone wrong, because we budget 7.5 because we know we are having buildings or we are having rooms rooms that will give us amount of money of 7.5. Let's check. So on this one we are saying rent significantly under budgeted, actually less than the budgeted. Budget was unrealistically high. Investigate the shortfall. Poor collection. Did the tenants not pay well, or the tenants have left without paying? Or you have to rectify the problem of maybe overestimating. Maybe it was the first time you were renting out rooms, then you thought you will get 2,000 for each room, but unfortunately it did not work in that way. Tenants have to sign in for debit orders, or they must also sign the contract that binds them that each and every month they need to pay. If they did not pay, they are going to be taken up to the lawyers. Or you have to appoint a rent collector. We will collect everything, every rent at the month of the rent, at the end of the month. And then you have to charge on slow payers, meaning people who did not, you have to charge interest, meaning people who did not pay rent at the right time. they need to be charged interest for those other days that they did not pay. Let's say, for example, they pay on the 2nd. You just say after each and every on one day after each and every month, you increase rent. Rent will have an interest of 100 rand. So if your rent was 2,000 and you have to pay it on the 30th of each month, then if you pay it on the 1st is 2.1, the 2nd 2.2. That is how you can control it, and that is the advice you can control it. So we have come to the end of our budgets. I only prepared that one activity on the budgets. It is very important for you guys to know what is it that we expected for us to do under analysis and age. You have to collect or make sure that you add here. That is a minor thing that you know. All the calculations needs to be shown even in the bracket, and then the comment must also make sense, and then the advice must be relevant to the comment. In other cases, they will even say you must show the amounts. So in the case of where you have to show amount, you must say, for example, I'll talk with this telephone significantly overspent because they spent this much. You show the amount they spent and then the amount they budgeted. Therefore, you'll score a lot of marks on those other ones. We have come to the end of our discussion on the budgets, but the material you'll get through emails, but through your teachers, and then you'll be able to work over this with your teachers. Where you did not get or where you did not understand, you can ask your teachers. They will gladly help you, because this is paper 2, and paper 2, I normally say, I think paper 2 is easy to pass because we have taken all those easy topics to paper 2, which is your stock, your recons, your manufacturing, your budgets. So those easy marks are easily accessible in paper 2, and that is what most of the learners that I came across when I was moderating, that most of the learners managed to pass the paper 2. They understood it much better and they have confidence in it. So I believe each and every learner is going to get good marks in paper 2. Thank you very much. Until you see another presenter for accounting at 11 o'clock. Thank you very much.